It's really rare when this happens, guys. And don't forget, not only did it happen twice in the same night. What I'm talking about is coming out the back and knowing who the number one contenders are. I mean, it almost puts a damper on every press conference since 2001 when John Morgan or Kevin Iole says to Dana White, what happens next with such and such guy? They have to ask that question. There's no better question. There's nothing we want to know more. On the other side of it, Dana must give the same answer every single time. Let's see what happens. He must. He didn't know if these guys have passed the steroid test. Quite frankly, he's not going to talk about that, but that's going through his mind. He doesn't know what suspension the commission is going to give them. Everybody gets a minimum 7 days. You go out, you throw one punch, it lands, you knock the guy out. You just got yourself suspended for 7 days. Did you know that? As simple as that might be. I don't know anyone that ever got a 7-day. The minimum I've ever heard of is 30 days. Automatic 30-day suspension. Now, if you actually follow the bylaws of the ABC, do you guys even know what a 30-day suspension means? Because you won't find a fighter that does. Allow me to tell you, you can't even train. You cannot go in the gym. You are suspended if you go in the gym and somebody trains with you or a coach coaches you. Your workout partner can be, per the rules, suspended. It's never happened. They can be, per the rules. And the coach, if he's the licensed cornerman, can have it revoked. You guys don't know, but it's a big deal. There's a reason that Dana has to say, let's see what happens. We come out of this one. We got Suga Sean. And Suga Sean in the Michael Jackson jacket. I mean, come on. Can we give him credit? Come on, he's got no shirt on. I've wanted to pull that look off my whole life and don't have the courage. Now, even if I had the courage, there was never a time I could have pulled that look off. But believe me, if I could have sat in the front row at a title fight on pay-per-view with no shirt on and a Michael Jackson jacket, I would have done it. That was cool. Everything. Sean's a cool guy, man. I got to tell you, though. Okay, so he's going to fight next. He's going to fight with Aljo next. Great. But now Belal's in position, too. And I get that I get that's a little bit logjam, but he is still in position. He's still established it. We now know what's next for him fight-wise. We don't know who the opponent is. All right, it's got to go between Colby and Leon. But there's also a side, if something was to happen, that he would go right in, right? It makes a real easy transition into an interim title fight, should you need one. And where we stand right now, we're going to need one. I don't believe that, but I'm telling you the words that we've heard, which are from the champion, I'm not fighting Colby. Okay, great. You don't have to. Belal will fight him, and we'll do it for the interim championship. But it's one of these things. When you have Belal in that position, it makes that very easy to do. I'm not announcing that or predicting for you. I'm attempting to prove a point that even if it's a round robin and we've got these three, we've still established more clarity. But a long time, guys. I probably got to go back to Moreno-Figueiredo Part 1. I probably got to go all the way back to that post-fight press conference for Dana to come out and be clear with us and not play the game. Not play the we'll see what happens. Come out and give us an answer. Cool. It's fun. It's different. So I'm bringing this to your attention. I'm bringing it for a plethora of reasons. But, in capital letters, comma, okay? But, comma. As soon as you establish a top guy, as soon as you move a top guy off the board. Generally, that comes in pairs. Leon Colby would be an example. That pair comes off the board. Now, Belal as a singular has come off the board. But it speaks volumes to the guesses that the you and I's of the world are going to put forward for what happens with, let's say, Rakhmonov. Rakhmonov, who's 16-0 with all... This has never been done. What Rakhmonov has already achieved in the sport has never been done. How that story isn't told 5 times more often and louder than it is an injustice. But now it doesn't appear that he's one away from a title shot, by the way. So who's he going to fight? Rakhmonov has put himself in a position where he must fight a top guy. You would be irresponsible as a promoter and as a commission to sanction anything less. I mean, that's what happens when you finish 16 of 16, right? It's a big problem. let me just diverge for a second. Jon Jones. Jon Jones has to fight in title fights. He 205 pounder, sat on his ass for 3 years. He's going to a division he's never been in. And Dana's like, whenever he comes back, he's fighting for a title. Nobody pushed back on that, and they would have at any other time. You want to know why they did it? Because Jon will hurt you if you're the number one guy. If you're the number one ranked guy in the world, Jon Jones will send you to the emergency room. The last time I saw Thiago, the last time I yelled to, it was after the Jon Jones fight. Great job. I'd never even met him before. I said, great job. That was awesome. He waved to me. He waved. He didn't speak English. I didn't speak Portuguese. He was on a stretcher. He was tied down in 2 different places, and they were lifting him into an ambulance. We were out back. I was with Gilbert Melendez and Errol, and we wanted to pay our respects. He put on an awesome fight. They were taking him to the emergency room. He's number one guy in the world. This is what happens if you fight Jon Jones. As the number one guy, you're going to the emergency room. The point I'm trying to make is you can't put Jon in there with a number 9. You can't, a number 9 guy, that's something to brag about, tell your grandkids someday. I was ranked number 9 in the world. Don't fight Jon Jones at number 9. You can't put Jon in there with number 6. It's irresponsible. And I'm bringing that to you. Rakhmonov is in a very similar place. That's what finishing 16-16 means. So now we're talking about putting Rakhmonov in there with the top guy and letting them know, we don't even need to have the conversation, right? Danny Rube isn't even going to pick up the phone and say, hey, by the way, Sean, this is number one contenders match, right? Had Belal and Gilbert not done this, Sean probably would have said, of course it's a number one contenders match. Danny Rube won't even ask him. He knows it's not a number one contenders. We got Belal waiting. So now you're going to put Rakhmonov, just by example, but you're going to put him in an absolute top fight. And it's not going to be a number one contenders match. The guy's 16-0 with all finishes. It's a big deal. I mean, you want to go by the numbers, you're either going to have somebody jump on the grenade and you're going to have to take a top guy that's going to have to go out and do the job. He's going to have to put Rakhmonov over and go, well, it's one last paycheck, and I hope you guys appreciate that I did you a favor. It's going to be that. That's part of this business. Okay? Or you're going to put him with the absolute best, and you know who I'm talking about. Kamaru Usman. That's it. That's it. You don't have another option. There are studs. There are tough guys. They don't want to fight him. They will. They will. There's ways to make fights happen. Believe me, they're not all nice. Or you're going to put him with Usman. And the reason I'm very light on that idea is a Usman versus Rakhmonov, by example, either becomes your number one contenders match, which it's eliminated from, or you put that match on the same night that you put Colby versus Edwards. In the event that something happens, so you can then pull that fight apart and move that person up. Very common in our industry. Not common when you have Belal in the position he's in. Do you see how everything just changed, right? And if you listen to this piece and you say, Chael, thank you, and I've been entertained, but Chael, you've overthought this. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's not overly sophisticated. And, hey, who wants to fight it? There's ways to make this simple. But if you're really trying to look at it and you're really trying to understand it, there's not a real historical piece that you can turn to. Normally when we take guys off the board, we take them 2 at a time. Colby, Edwards, just to reuse that example. But Belal came off the board 1. So now you got a real transition player. Is everything going to go perfectly as expected? Nothing ever does. Is it? Sure. If it does, then that means that Colby and Edwards will fight. Belal sitting there to take on the winner. He'll be in the front row, maybe get a little face-off, however that goes. That's a perfect world. When's the last time we had a perfect world? It's more likely that something happens between Edwards and Colby and Belal goes right in. That's more likely if you just want to look at historically speaking. And then you got a big question of what do you do with Rakhmonov, and is Kamaru coming back? Because if he is, come on. Kamaru's coming right into something big. Kamaru's coming hard and heavy. Kamaru Usman has been so quiet. He's been quiet for 4 months. There's going to be some news that's going to be coming soon, and it's going to be big.